Chosen ones, before God crowns a man, he first crushes him. Before he lifts you to a place of influence, he takes you through a season where everything seems to fall apart. It's not because he's against you. It's because he's preparing you for a level of purpose your old self can't carry. Many of you are wondering why your journey feels harder than others. Why you face betrayal, loss, isolation, and pain that seems almost unbearable. It's because God has placed something rare inside you, and rare vessels require a deeper process. When God chooses a person, he doesn't just hand them power, wisdom, or influence. He first strips away everything built on human strength. He shakes every foundation that isn't rooted in him. At first, it feels like punishment. Doors close. People disappear. Opportunities dry up. You're left standing in the ruins of what you thought your life would be. But that's exactly where God begins his real work. Look at Joseph, favored by his father, given dreams by God, yet thrown into a pit, sold into slavery and locked in prison. Look at Moses, a prince one day, a fugitive the next, spending 40 years in the wilderness. David, anointed as king, but running from Saul, hiding in caves. Their breaking seasons didn't disqualify them. They prepared them. Every moment of breaking was God chiseling away pride, fear, doubt, and self-reliance, until only faith remained. Chosen ones, your breaking season is not random. It's divine. It's where God removes the noise so you can hear his voice. It's where he allows pressure to reveal what's in you. It's where he trains your heart to depend on him fully. He's not trying to destroy you. He's molding you into the kind of vessel heaven can trust. If it feels like everything in your life is being shaken, remember this: God breaks the man he wants to use. Your pain has purpose. Your tears are seeds. This is not the end of your story, it's the beginning of your becoming. Comment Amen if this speaks to you, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the rest of this powerful message. Chosen ones, before God can use you, he has to remove everything that would compete with his will in your life. That's why breaking always begins with stripping the self. We grow up learning to rely on our own strength, our plans, our image, and our ability to control situations. But when God sets his eyes on you for a divine assignment, he starts pulling away the layers you've built around yourself. It's not to humiliate you, it's to purify you. Ego, pride, self-reliance, comfort, and even misplaced trust in people, all of these have to be dealt with. God doesn't want to share his glory with the flesh. If he allowed your old self to carry the weight of the calling, the very blessing meant to elevate you would end up destroying you. So he lovingly but firmly strips away every false foundation. This is why chosen ones often experience seasons where everything they depended on starts to fail. Friends become distant, careers stall, money dries up, plans collapse, and even your own confidence seems to disappear. God removes your props so you can learn to stand on him alone. Look at Moses. He was raised in Pharaoh's palace, trained as a prince, equipped with worldly power. But before God could use him to deliver a nation, he had to take him to the wilderness, away from titles and influence. For 40 years, Moses wasn't leading armies, he was leading sheep. All the prince of Egypt was stripped away until a humble shepherd remained. Only then did God speak from the burning bush. Joseph had to be stripped too, from the favor of his father's house to the betrayal of his brothers, from the coat of many colors to a prison uniform. But that stripping was necessary. It took him from being a dreamer dependent on favor to a leader shaped by adversity. Chosen ones, this is why God breaks first. He's not punishing you. He's preparing you. He removes the you that's built by the world, so he can reveal the you he designed in heaven. He allows disappointments so you stop leaning on people. He allows delays so you stop worshiping your timeline. He allows weakness so you can learn his strength. When the stripping happens, it feels uncomfortable. Your pride will resist it. Your emotions will fight it. But if you stay surrendered, you'll come out refined, emptied of self, ready to be filled with divine power. This is the stage where heaven removes your mask so your true identity can emerge. Chosen ones, after God strips away everything you've leaned on, he often leads you into the wilderness. This is not a physical place, but a spiritual season. It's where the noise quiets, familiar faces fade, and life as you knew it seems to pause. The wilderness is where God takes you away from the crowd so he can shape you in silence. It's not a season of punishment, it's a season of preparation. In the wilderness, things that used to work no longer do. Prayers seem unanswered, doors remain closed. You feel unseen, unheard, and forgotten. But this is exactly where God does his deepest work. He removes you from distractions so he can deal with your heart. Many of the greatest chosen ones in history went through this. Moses spent 40 years in Midian. Joseph spent years in an Egyptian prison. David wandered in caves, hunted by Saul. Even Jesus spent 40 days in the wilderness before his public ministry began. If they had to endure this season, so will you. The wilderness season teaches what comfort cannot. It reveals your weaknesses, tests your faith, and burns away impurities. When there's no applause, no recognition, no progress to boast about, your true character is exposed. This is where you learn obedience without rewards, trust without visible evidence, and worship without conditions. God uses the wilderness to train you for where he's taking you. He teaches you to hear his voice clearly, because out here there's no one else to lean on. Many chosen ones misinterpret this season as abandonment. You think God has forgotten you because everything feels silent. But silence doesn't mean absence. It means God is working behind the scenes. He's allowing your roots to go deep so that when the rain comes, you won't be shaken. Just like a seed must break in the dark soil before it sprouts, your destiny is being formed in the unseen. This season will feel lonely. It will test your patience and challenge your faith. But it's in the wilderness that warriors are formed and leaders are born. If you can endure the quiet, you'll emerge with a strength that can't be shaken by crowds or critics. Chosen ones, don't despise your wilderness. It's not a detour. It's divine training ground. God hides you before he reveals you. Chosen ones, the wilderness may be silent, but the breaking season is rarely painless. Pain is one of God's most effective tools for shaping his vessels. It reaches places that comfort never can. When God wants to mold a chosen one, he often allows a level of pain that forces deep transformation. Not to crush your spirit, but to refine your soul. Think of how a potter shapes clay. It's pressed, spun, reshaped, and sometimes broken to start again. Or how gold is purified in fire. It's heated until the impurities rise to the surface. That's what your pain is doing. It's exposing what needs to go. Fear, pride, unforgiveness, insecurity, or any hidden weakness that would hinder your calling. God doesn't waste pain. Every tear, every betrayal, every loss, every delay is a chisel in his hand, carving you into the vessel he can trust. Look at Joseph's story. Betrayed by his own brothers, falsely accused, forgotten in prison. Each painful chapter was shaping him into a leader who could handle the weight of saving nations. Moses faced rejection, exile, and the pain of leading a stubborn people. David endured betrayal from Saul, loneliness in caves, and the heartbreak of being hunted despite his anointing. Pain didn't destroy them. It prepared them. Chosen ones, your pain has purpose. Some of you are wondering why certain relationships fell apart so painfully, why doors slammed shut at the worst time, why betrayal cut so deep. It's because God allows pain to reveal where your trust lies. Pain pushes you to rely on him like never before. It strips away illusions and strengthens your inner core. Without pain, you'd remain soft in the wrong areas, trusting the wrong voices, or clinging to what's temporary. Pain also gives you compassion and depth. A person who's never suffered deeply can't lead others through suffering. God allows chosen ones to walk through fire so that when they speak with authority. Their scars become proof that they've been shaped by his hand, not just by circumstances. In the moment, the pain feels unbearable, but later, you'll look back and realize those were the seasons that matured you. God was forging a warrior out of you, not a weak vessel. The pain you're facing now is not to destroy you. It's to make sure when God elevates you, nothing can break you again. Chosen ones, the deeper the breaking, the greater the surrender. There comes a point in every chosen one's journey where your strength runs out, your plans fall apart, and your will no longer has power to control the outcome. This is the breaking point where obedience is born. When you've been stripped, tested, and refined, you stop wrestling with God and start yielding to Him. True obedience doesn't come from comfort, it's birthed in brokenness. Before the breaking, obedience often looks like convenience. We follow God as long as His path aligns with our preferences. But after the breaking, obedience becomes real. It's no longer about what feels good, it's about what He says. When you reach the end of yourself, surrender stops being a concept and becomes a way of life. Your prayers change from "God, bless my plans" to "God, let your will be done." That's the shift heaven is after. Think about Peter. Before Jesus' arrest, Peter boldly declared he would never deny Him. But when the pressure came, Peter broke. His strength wasn't enough. But after that breaking, something changed. On the other side of his tears, Peter surrendered fully. That surrender positioned him to be the rock on which the early church was built. His failure led to obedience that carried power. Moses experienced the same transformation. At first, he tried to deliver Israel in his own strength by striking the Egyptian. But after 40 years of wilderness breaking, when God finally called him, Moses responded with humility and obedience. His own plans had died in the desert, and that made space for God's plan to flow through him. Chosen ones, brokenness brings you face to face with your limits. You realize you can't manipulate destiny, you can't rely on your strength, and you can't outthink God's timing. That's when you finally let go. And in that surrender, something powerful happens. God can trust you. He knows you'll follow even when you don't understand. He knows your heart is no longer chasing your glory, but His. This obedience born from brokenness carries authority. It's no longer driven by ego, but by divine alignment. You become a vessel that moves at His word, not your emotions. You stop forcing doors open and start walking through the ones He chooses. That's when your life shifts from striving to flowing in divine rhythm. Chosen ones, never despise the season that breaks you. It's the soil where true surrender grows. And once you surrender, you step into a dimension of grace and power that can't be faked or taught. It's only forged in the fire. Chosen ones, after the breaking comes the rebuilding. God never leaves His chosen ones shattered on the ground. He breaks to remake, He strips to rebuild, and He wounds to heal in a way that leaves no weakness behind. When God finishes the breaking process, He doesn't just restore you to what you were before. He rebuilds you into something unshakable, something heaven can trust with influence, power, and responsibility. This rebuilding season is quiet but powerful. You'll begin to notice that the things which once controlled you no longer have the same power. Fear that used to paralyze you suddenly loses its grip. Insecurities that once dictated your decisions begin to fade. The person who emerges from divine breaking is not the same person who entered it. God rebuilds you from the inside out. He gives you clarity, stability, and spiritual authority that comes from surviving what should have broken you. Think about Joseph. The boy with dreams became a man who carried nations through famine. The pit and the prison weren't wasted. They were God's construction sites. When Joseph finally stood before Pharaoh, he wasn't a naive dreamer anymore. He was a leader shaped by years of pain, silence, and testing. That's why he could handle the palace without letting it corrupt him. Look at Job. After unimaginable loss and suffering, God restored him, but not to the same level. His end was greater than his beginning. The rebuilding season carries a glory the old life could never hold. And Moses, the man who once ran in fear, became the leader who stood before Pharaoh with boldness and signs from heaven. Broken vessels rebuilt by God carry a strength that human will can't produce. Chosen ones, when God rebuilds you, He gives you a new foundation, His foundation. Your identity is no longer built on titles, people, or achievements. It's anchored in Him. That's why, after breaking, your movements become purposeful. You speak differently. You walk with quiet authority. You no longer chase validation because you've met God in the fire. What once broke you now builds others through your testimony. This is the season where your story shifts. The same pain that humbled you becomes the platform for your assignment. God rebuilds your life not for decoration but for deployment. He doesn't rebuild fragile castles. He builds spiritual fortresses, and those he rebuilds he sends. Chosen ones, when you come out of the breaking, don't be surprised if people don't recognize you. They're looking for the old you, but that version is gone. God has rebuilt you into someone far stronger than before. Chosen ones, one of the most powerful things about God's breaking process is that it always produces living proof. Every chosen one who has walked through deep breaking eventually becomes a testimony of what God can do with a surrendered life. The very people who once questioned your silence, mocked your setbacks, or overlooked your pain will witness the hand of God lift you in ways that can't be explained by logic. Your life becomes the evidence that brokenness is not the end. It's the doorway to divine purpose. Look at Peter. Before the breaking, he was impulsive, confident in his own strength, and quick to speak. But after denying Jesus and weeping bitterly, his heart was transformed. On the day of Pentecost, the same man who hid in fear stood before thousands and preached with power. His brokenness became the soil for his boldness. God used his lowest moment to build a foundation that changed history. Joseph's story is another undeniable proof. Sold as a slave, falsely accused, thrown into prison and forgotten. Yet after years of breaking, God lifted him to the palace and used him to save nations. When he finally faced his brothers, he didn't seek revenge. He said, "You meant it for evil, but God meant it for good." That's the language of someone who's been broken and rebuilt. His pain became the platform for God's glory. David was hunted, betrayed, and hidden in caves, but those caves were classrooms. By the time he reached the throne, he was no longer the shepherd boy with a slingshot. He was a king shaped by wilderness seasons and forged through pain. His psalms still minister to people thousands of years later because they were birthed out of his breaking. Chosen ones, you're not just enduring hardship for your own growth. God is writing a story through your life. Your scars will speak. Your testimony will break chains for others who are still in their wilderness. The people around you will see that what tried to destroy you only prepared you. You will become living evidence that God can take a broken vessel, rebuild it, and use it to impact lives. When God elevates you, it won't be because you were the strongest, the loudest, or the most qualified. It'll be because you were willing to let him break and remake you. Your life will carry a weight and authority that only comes from divine shaping. Chosen ones, never underestimate what your breaking is producing. You are becoming proof that God still raises the humble, still restores the broken, and still uses ordinary people for extraordinary purposes. Chosen ones, if there's one truth you need to hold on to, it's this. God's breaking is not meant to end you, it's meant to birth you. The pain, the stripping, the silence, the wilderness, none of it is wasted. Every moment is part of a divine process carefully designed to shape you into the vessel heaven can trust. What feels like destruction is actually construction. What feels like abandonment is actually preparation. And what looks like a setback is often the setup for your greatest assignment. Many run from breaking seasons because they don't understand their purpose. They think God has turned against them when, in reality, He's turning them into something greater. Chosen ones don't fight the process. Embrace it. Lean into it. Trust that the same God who allows the breaking is the same God who will bring the rebuilding. He's not done with you. He's working in silence, chiseling away everything that doesn't belong, and shaping you for a future you can't fully see yet. Think about a seed buried underground. It sits in darkness, pressure, and silence, but inside something is breaking open. That breaking isn't death, it's the beginning of life. The same is true for you. This season may feel dark, lonely, or confusing, but it's in this place that God is awakening what He planted in you long ago. Chosen ones, embracing the breaking doesn't mean you stop feeling pain. It means you trust God with it. You stop asking, "Why me?" and start declaring, "Shape me." You shift from resistance to surrender. You stop clinging to your timeline and start walking by faith. And when you do, something powerful happens. Your breaking becomes a launching pad, not a burial ground. Your story isn't over. The breaking season is only a chapter, not the whole book. Soon, you'll look back and realize that the very pain that made you cry out to God was the same pain that positioned you for your purpose. God is too wise to waste suffering and too loving to break you without rebuilding you stronger. So today, if you're in the middle of your breaking, lift your head. You're not being destroyed. You're being shaped for something bigger than you can imagine. Comment "I'm in His hands" if you're trusting God through the breaking. Share your journey below and subscribe to join others walking this divine path. Chosen ones, embrace the breaking. It's the birthplace of destiny.